My name is Latanya Miller, and I work for the School District of Philadelphia. And today, I'm going to be reading Vera Vance, Comic Star. Vera Vance, Comic Star is a book about a girl who loves comic books and is excited about going to the after-school comics camp. I wonder how many of you like comic books. Let's see what happens when Vera attends the comics camp. Chapter 1. Bam! Boom! Kapow! Vera Vance let go of her bowling ball, hoping this time to hear 10 pins exploding into the air. But her ball rolled so slowly and crookedly down the lane, again, that only one pin on the far left wobbled for a second before toppling over. Hooray! Nixie Ness shouted, pumping her fist. Vera didn't have a lot of friends yet. She and her mother had moved to Longwood for her mother's new job right before school began 2 months ago. But she and Nixie had just finished being in an after-school cooking camp together, and now Nixie had invited her to come bowling on Saturday afternoon. Vera stared at Nixie. Hooray! You got a point! Your first point! You're starting to figure it out, Nixie's father chimed in, sounding almost as enthusiastic as Nixie herself. Vera couldn't help laughing. So far, the only thing that she had figured out in her first time ever bowling was that she was terrible at it. Nixie was almost as bad at bowling as Vera. The difference between Vera and Nixie was that when Nixie knocked down a single pin, she started talking about how she was going to be the 3rd grade bowling champion of the world. Vera just saw the other 9 pins still standing. Roll again, Nixie's father told her. You have another roll coming to you. This time, to Vera's astonishment, 4 more pins went down. See, Nixie squealed. Didn't I tell you you'd be great at bowling? Vera felt herself beaming. She could imagine drawing a comic of the bowling pins flying into the air with surprised expressions on their faces. All Vera could think about these days was making comics. On Monday, the after-school Superstars program she and Nixie attended was starting a 4-week comic book camp. As Nixie readied herself for her next turn, Vera wondered whether the bowling pins should look sad instead of surprised when they got smashed by the bowling ball. It was hard not to feel sorry for the poor bowling pins, standing up straight and proud one moment, then clobbered the next. No, Vera decided. Right this minute, bowling with Nixie and looking forward to comic book camp together, she wasn't going to think sad thoughts about anything. The next day, Nixie came over to Vera's house after lunch. They had never had a play date before, and now they were having 2 in the same weekend. Once Nixie's family had invited Vera to go bowling, Vera's mother had immediately issued an invitation of their own to Nixie. She called it reciprocating. Vera knew her mother liked to get reciprocating over with as soon as possible. What do you want to do? Vera asked as soon as her mother had welcomed Nixie and then tactfully disappeared into the home office where she did stuff for her job as a financial planner. I don't know. What do you want to do? Nixie replied. Vera felt a twinge of nervousness. It was easier to go bowling with a friend because then it was obvious what you were supposed to do. Bowl. For an at-home play date, you were supposed to play, but what if the other person didn't like playing the same things you did? I know, Nixie said. Vera relaxed. Show me your room. Didn't you tell me you were making a comic book about animals? I love animals. Well, dogs mainly. Not cats. But if there are cats in your book, that's okay too. Half an hour later, the girls were lying on Vera's neatly made bed, side by side drawing dogs. Vera's dogs looked more like dogs than Nixie's did because Vera borrowed details from her big animal encyclopedia, while Nixie just made them up out of her head. But Nixie was great at thinking of funny things for the dogs to be doing and saying. How about they go to doggy school? Nixie suggested. Like maybe it's called Bow Wow Elementary. Vera thought for a moment. Or Mistress Barker's Bow Wow Academy. Yes, that's perfect, Nixie shouted. What street should it be on? The answer came to Vera instantly. Wagatail Lane. Nixie tossed a fistful of colored pencils into the air in clear appreciation of Vera's brilliance. The pencils clattered onto the hardwood floor. Just then, Vera's mother poked her head into the room. It sounds like you two are having fun, she said. Are we making too much noise? Vera asked. No, not at all, her mother said. Well, maybe a tiny bit. She smiled when she said it. Vera knew her mother wanted her to have friends in Longwood as much as she did. Vera is a great drawer, Nixie said. Nixie is a terrific artist too, Vera said in return. Nixie's face lit up. If we get to have partners in comic book camp, let's work together. Our comic book will be totally the best. We can make a whole Bow Wow Academy comic with the dogs as superheroes, each one with a different superpower. Not just super barking or super biting or super peeing on fire hydrants, but really cool superpowers, like turning into other animals, like maybe one dog turns into an elephant and can spray water from her trunk to put out fires. If they had to have comic book partners, of course Vera wanted Nixie for hers, but part of Vera hoped they'd get to work alone. What if she and Nixie disagreed on ideas? So far, they had agreed on everything about Mistress Barker's Bow Wow Academy. But in the space of a minute, Nixie had already gone ahead and practically planned out the whole book. Before Vera could think of how to reply to Nixie, her mother said, I'm not sure Vera's doing the comic book camp. No, not again. Vera's mother had been talking about hiring a sitter to drive Vera to some other enrichment activity instead, like the kids' science discovery class at the university. She always told Vera comics weren't real literature, but Vera devoured comics and graphic novels in the library at school. She loved everything about them, the way she could be swept along in the story by the words and the pictures, and feel like she was right there having adventures side by side with kids so much braver than she could ever be. The camp was starting tomorrow. Her mother couldn't change her mind about it one day before the most wonderful camp in the world was going to begin, could she? Nixie opened her mouth as if she was about to explain to Mrs. Vance how Vera had to be at the comic book camp. She just had to. But then Nixie's mouth closed again. It was clear Vera's mother wasn't someone who could be told what she had to do. I want to go to the comic book camp, Vera said in a small voice. I know you do, her mom replied. But why would a school enrichment program devote an entire camp to comic books when there are so many other truly important things in the world to learn about? Vera stared down silently at the dog pictures she and Nixie had drawn. If only Nixie hadn't mentioned dogs peeing on fire hydrants. That was exactly the kind of thing her mother didn't like. Her mother sighed. Honey, I'm willing to give the comic book camp a try for now. But if you're bored because it's not challenging enough, we can make whatever changes in your schedule we need to. All right, girls, I'll let you go back to your fun. Vera's mother gave both girls a smile before she headed again downstairs. After a moment of silence, Nixie said, She did say you could do the camp. She said I could do it for now. Can you talk to your dad? Vera took a deep breath. I don't have a dad. He died in a car accident when I was 2. Nixie's face crumpled. I didn't know. I'm sorry, Vera. That's okay. Vera was used to answering questions about her dad in a matter-of-fact voice without making the other person feel bad for having asked. But this time, her voice had come out shakier than usual. Well, Let's draw some more. I'm tired of drawing. Vera knew Nixie hadn't been the tiniest bit tired of drawing before her mother had come into the room. I have an idea, Nixie said. Let's look at animal pictures in your encyclopedia and each pick out the top 10 animals we'd adopt if our parents let us have pets. Okay, Vera agreed. But she didn't care if her mother might someday let her have a dog, or an elephant, or a pygmy three-toed sloth. She only cared whether her mother would let her keep going to the comic book camp after school every single day for the whole entire